Subscribe to his YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any update. Yes, it's totally free.
Please. The first question was, could you please explain the experience of God consciousness? Are you able to give God's consciousness to someone else as you claim to have given to your own son?
God consciousness could be defined in many ways. How I define God consciousness is, as you keep evolving, you come to a point where you realize that you are God. That's what I mean by God consciousness. To me, when I'm talking to you, you are God. But a God who suffers the illusion that he or she is not God. I, for example, feel I am God. When I look at you, I see you only as God, but a God who is probably confused. A God who is suffering from some illusion. That's how I feel. It is possible for everyone to realize that he is God because you are God. All that there is only God. There's nothing else but God. And you are God. The only problem is that illusion. Illusion goes, you are God, and that is God consciousness. That's what I mean by God consciousness. That's the first part, the answer for the first part of your question. The second part is about my son. I have never ever claimed that I had given God consciousness to my son. All that I had done was, I had to land the golden ball. Now I needed somebody who is young and innocent, through whom I could land it. At that time in the school, my son probably was the youngest and he was very innocent. Therefore, I had to make use of him to bring the golden ball. So the golden ball was brought into him. From there it was transferred to others. But I never said I have given him God consciousness. The other part of your question, whether I could give God consciousness to anybody, well, it has to be rephrased like this. I can give it. The question is, could you take it? If you are ready, it's given. That is the answer for the first question.
Second question, why did Bhagavan not bless the people who decide to go their own way? Because from Bhagavan's vision, all suffering is the result of bad relationships. Should we not bless even those who make decisions which are not equal to ours?
Relationships between me and them is excellent. In fact, they met me a few weeks ago. They came along with Anthony Robbins. He brought them and they apologized to me. They hugged me and they kissed me. And relationships are excellent. There's no problem with the relationship. As they have said, it's because of ideological differences. They have different ideas, I have different ideas. I live and work for 2012. 2012 is no more a vision for them, no more a mission for them. It's not there anymore. My tool is the blessing. They do not want to use the blessing. So there's a total difference between me and them. I am for 2012, that's what I'm living for. I feel that's the last chance for humanity to transform itself, otherwise they could very easily perish the next 50 or 75 years. So I live for that. They have no passion for 2012, they have no belief in it. The next, I believe in putting man and God together, putting in touch back with the divine, which only is going to help him out. The divine has no place in their scheme of things anymore. I believe in the blessing as a tool. They do not believe in it anymore. I believe in grace. They do not believe in grace. I believe in miracles. Every moment, even as I'm talking to you, there are thousands of miracles happening all over the world. They do not believe in it. Their belief is in technology. They maintain that you must grow through human effort. I also believe in human effort, but human effort plus grace. They only believe in psychology. For me, it is psychology plus spirituality. So there are fundamental differences. So there's no question of our seeing eye to eye. I should have seen in their own communication to the world that there are ideological differences. Now you can still bless somebody with ideological differences. But if that ideology is going to destroy your work, your mission, which is not my personal work, I have nothing personal in this. This has to do with the phenomenon. Phenomenon is not my property or their property. Phenomenon is the property of the divine. It has come down for a certain purpose. And we have been chosen to help it out and to give it away to the people of the world. So our thing is to help the phenomenon. We cannot do anything for ourselves. What they have started is a business venture. It's a commercial business venture with this objective of making money. And it's not spiritual work. I'm doing spiritual work. This is spiritual work. It's not about money. And my thing has been there should only be enough money to survive. There should be no surplus money. That's complete. It's a corporate business academy it is. Just like some educational institutions which are there for making money. So this being the condition and that being antagonistic to my work of 2012, by my work there's nothing my there. I believe it's the last chance for mankind to really transform itself. 2012 is a very strange event. 3 major cycles are going to coincide. A 5,000-year-old cycle is going to end in 2012. A 26,400-year cycle is going to end in 2012. A 650,000-year-old cycle is going to end in 2012. It's going to be a new awakening, a new beginning for humanity. And we have to make the best of 2012 so that we could transform man. That's why I'm asking the people in the world to help me out with that mission, to produce more blessing givers, to become trainers, to become teachers. I want to hand over all power, all knowledge, including esoteric teachings, to selected people, the teachers from every country of the world, so that they continue this work. And I want oneness to be dissolved by 2014. That people of the world, whoever choose to become, they must become teachers. Trainers will become teachers. And they continue the work. They don't want to do all those things. They want to destroy 2012. For example, these questions that you are asking me, for example, they arise because of their work. And this leads to an erosion of faith, an erosion to 2012, an erosion of the commitment to 2012, and losing time rapidly. We are just 2 years more. For example, in India, 3 acharyas had left many years ago. Every year people leave. We don't have a single problem. Never has it been a problem when Acharya leaves or a Dasa leaves. We keep going with our work. Even today in India, we all stand like one man. This problem is particularly only in Europe. It is not there in Russia, the Soviet Union. It is not there in USA, Canada, or Mexico. It is not there in South America. It is not there in China. China, we have a presence. It is not there in Japan, Korea, Taiwan, anywhere in the world. It is only in Europe. Therefore, we are losing time. These questions mean something which is really not true. They are on their own. Why should I support something which is antagonistic to my work? It's all about man. That's about a commercial venture. Now what they have done has put these questions in your hearts, and you have the right to ask, but what is happening? It's probably leading to an erosion of faith, an erosion of commitment to 2012, and the belief in the whole movement. And if that happens, how do I produce the blessing givers? How do I produce the trainers? How am I going to transfer the power to them? If you're not going to have that faith, you don't have that commitment, how am I going to transfer the power? How are you going to produce the blessing givers? How are you going to do the blessing in 2012? The whole year we have been working, the transformation of man. So we are losing valuable time. So even as we are losing valuable time, if I were to support them and bless them, there will be much more confusion in the world. Oneness is one, that's all. It cannot be two. We use the word in India, Advaya, non-two. We believe that the universe came out from a single infinitesimal point from which came out the Big Bang. We call it the Bindu. And we call it Advaya, non-two. So oneness is all about that, getting back to the source, which is complete oneness. There cannot be a second thing there. How could you go to do a second thing there? You cannot. And if you do something very different, also I have no problem, but it's against this. You are destroying the phenomenon. The phenomenon is not my property or your property. It is the divine's property. It is the divine. We are all servants of the divine. That's why we call it a dasa, a servant, who helps the phenomenon go along. It's mankind's property. It is in response to the prayers of millions of people all over the world, probably for centuries. This kind of work should happen 2000 years ago. But something went wrong, it did not happen. 2005 years ago, it should have happened, something went wrong. The Buddha had similar problems. His dasas, his monks had left him once because he had to pull them up. When he pulled them up, they asked him, get out. My dasas are better. They didn't ask me to get out. They tried to only push me out. He was asked to get out, and the Buddha walked away. You know what the people did? The people said, we will starve you to death if you don't bring the Buddha back. And what did the king say? He told the monks, I'll thrash you all if you don't bring the Buddha back. And so they brought back the Buddha. And Buddha lost valuable time. And there's a guy called Devadatta who was all the time giving him problems, saying, please make me your successor. Buddha said, I'll give to a dog but not to you. Buddha never named a successor. There are no successors for this kind of work. How in India you must know, I am worshipped as God. In a single state there are 1,000 temples. There are people in India who know no other God. There are children who know no other God. So in India I am a God. How do you succeed a God? They want to be successors. How could you succeed a phenomenon? Is it possible? It can't be ever done. That is the problem. These are the realities. Can I tell you all those things? How is it possible? You must look at the work. The teachings are mine. What you explain the courses are because of me. We're doing so much. Look at the miracles all over India and the world. That's what you've got to see. So to stand by the phenomenon, you must be concerned about mankind. If you have passion for mankind and humanity, these questions may not arise. This never arises in India. This doesn't in most countries of the world. Why are we wasting our time on this? Why are we preoccupied by this? We have to get going with the work. So I please request you, let us bury this. It's not going to take us anywhere. We are going to get nothing out of this. It happens every day in India. 2 months ago, one Dasa from the West, he came and said, Bhagavan, I cannot resist the West anymore. The razzle-dazzle of the West, it is paradise because they have not been exposed to the West. And he said, please forgive me, Bhagavan. I want to go and enjoy the West. It's fine. Many years ago, I sent some Dasas outside India. They all got settled in the West. The West is too much because they've been leading an isolated kind of life. When they go out, it's too much. A week later, another Dasa came and said, Bhagavan, the world is too much. A week later, another came. In India, people just take it. That's all. 3 Acharyas left long ago. One Acharya told me after 14 years of no academics, Bhagavan, please allow me to go to Berkeley. I want to spend time with the Nobel laureates and others, see them all. I want to enjoy it. And after 14 years, she wrote to Berkeley, and Berkeley picked her up for a PhD course. And she studied in Berkeley. It came out in flying colors. Now she's doing service to the poor. This is a regular feature, this is. Nobody ever talks about it in India. They came, they worked, they were loyal, they were loving, they were kind. The time has come, they have grown up, they want to leave. That's all there is to it. And of course, when sometimes you leave, you have to get a story. It so happened that these people are in the West. And I'm not blaming the West. The West has its own ideas, its own way of thinking. Probably they look something terrible has happened. So what do we do now? Are we going to lose this time? Every day we are losing time. So my request to you is, please bury this. This is of no consequence at all. This is a phenomenal response, as I told you, to prayers of millions of people for thousands of years. Let us work with the phenomenon. Become teachers. We have slashed the course prices. What would cost you for $10,000 or something to go to a PG and come back? I don't know how much it costs in Italy. Must be $3,400 or $4,000. Will cost you a mere $600. That's all. And a powerful course you will have. Become trainers. Become teachers. Carry on the work. become independent. You must stand on your own feet. That's what this oneness movement is all about. So please let us not go into this anymore. I have been speaking a lot about this. Valuable time is being lost. But if you still want, I will talk. You still want clarity. So now shall we move on to the third question?
Okay. Thank you, Bhagavan sir. Is it possible that there can be a difference on opinions between people with a higher consciousness?
You see, two people might be the highest consciousness, yet they could have completely different views. Take the example of Buddha and the Mahavira. Both were giants. Both are worshipped after 2500 years as truly enlightened people, great masters, enlightened beings, even sometimes as God. They were contemporaries and lived quite close to each other. They had completely different views on many matters of spirituality. Very, very different views. They never even met and spoke to each other, but both were great enlightened people. So you are assuming that as though enlightened people have the same view. Not at all. In recent times, you had Ramana Maharshi and Sri Aurobindo. They differed dramatically. But they were both mighty enlightened people. There's so many enlightened people in India, they never agree on a single thing sometimes. Where is the problem? And recent times, the West might have known of U.G. Krishnamurti and J. Krishnamurti. They knew each other, both were enlightened, but never saw eye to eye, diametrically opposite. What is this concept that enlightened people or people in higher states have the same views? The only thing is, people in higher states of consciousness will not quarrel. That's all. But how do you know that they are in enlightened states? How do you know? And I'm not claiming to be in an enlightened state. Probably we're not in the enlightened state. It's only your assumption. So it does not mean, even if you are enlightened, we'll be holding hands and dancing in the streets. No. That won't happen. Have you seen enlightened people dancing in the streets? Have you ever seen two people? It doesn't happen that way. It's all your assumption. You have strange ideas of enlightenment and awakening. You think an enlightenment person will be very calm, very sweet, and very soft. No. You have not seen them. The Buddha used to get angry sometimes and used to use a loud voice. It's called the lion's roar sometimes. You have not seen people. You only assume. You have not seen enlightened people in India beating people with sticks. There was an enlightened man called Seshadri Swami. He has beaten people with sticks. You know why? Because they were throwing stones at Ramana Maharshi. Have you heard of him? Ramana Maharshi? Ramana?
Yes.
Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Yes. So some people are throwing stones at him, and this enlightened man called Seshadri Swami used to beat up people violently. He used to go into shops, take away all the foodstuff in the shops and keep distributing to people on the road. Nobody questioned him. They never asked him why you are taking from the shop and distributing. You enter a cloth shop, distribute all the cloth to people. And the shopkeepers, they welcomed it. They knew it's an enlightened man who's taking away all their property and distributing it. Nobody questioned him. Strange behavior though. So there was a very famous enlightened person in India. Very shocking if I tell you that. He used to carry his own excreta on a stick and keep walking. How strange that is. And because people used to steal his excreta and eat it, because they became prosperous. Same things are there. So you have very different ideas of enlightened people. The enlightened people are quite angry. Have you seen the old sculptures of the Buddha? He has a turban and a moustache. That was the Buddha's image. The later image, the face is that of Alexander the Great. It's Greco-Indian sculpture. So you think the enlightened person will not be angry, he will not differ, he will not shout, he will not be violent. They are saints. Saints are there who will be very soft, who will be very sweet, who will be very kind, who will be very nice. They are another category. I have never claimed to be a saint. Never claimed to be one. I just function, that's all. And there are no regrets thereafter. I see some situation and I respond to it, that's all. There's no judgment, nothing. It's a response. It comes from consciousness, that's all, not from the mind. You may like it, you may not like it. It goes by. The moment is lived, finished. So, probably I must talk to you more about these things and give you a different idea of what the awakened man is. Tomorrow when you become an awakened man, you're not going to become a Saint Francis of Assisi. That's a different state. You may even throw stones at people, we do not know. But you will be happy. No regrets. We'll talk about that more later. You got one more question?
No, we had 3
That's
questions, Bhagavan, sir. We only had 3 questions, sir.
So yes, I've answered all your 3 questions. So, I'm sorry if I have hurt you.
No.
I didn't mean to hurt you, I just respond to your questions, that's all.
Okay.
So, we will have more of these Skypes. When I talk to you on a Skype, you can directly ask me questions. This is, you're having access to me. Direct access without any controls. Similarly, when you come to India, 2 days in a week, I'll be meeting people. You can come there in groups and nobody will stop you and you can ask me any questions. You can debate with me, you can discuss with me, and I will meditate with you and I'll bless you. All that will happen direct. When you come to India, it will happen. Since you can't be coming to India all the time, you can organize Skypes like this. You can invite anybody. Anybody you can give access. You are the people who control this. You can give access to anybody you like. And I hope you can give access to as many people as possible. And they can ask questions. They can meditate with me. I'll bless them. I'll do all those things. This is what I was wanting to do all these days. It could not happen for various reasons. Now I'm a free man now. These things will happen.
Okay.
So now shall we move into a 3-minute meditation?
Yes, please.
Yes. Later it will be for longer durations.
Okay.
Love you all. Love you.
Love you.
Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.